What's up everybody, Brett Medlock here. Today I wanted to talk about Nintendo Switch and Resident Evil 2 and the Resident Evil franchise's future in general. So let's go ahead and jump on in. So we know that Resident Evil 0, the Resident Evil 1 remake, and Resident Evil 4 are all three making their way to Nintendo Switch sometime this year, which that in itself is really exciting because first off, all three of those games are amazing, and 4, oh my god, I talk about it all the time, 4 is probably my favorite game ever, and I think it's going to feel right at home on Nintendo Switch. Now, with these games coming to the platform, it makes me wonder, is Capcom testing the waters a little bit to see what possible Resident Evil games could make their way sooner or later? As I'm sure you've heard, Resident Evil 7 made its way to Switch via streaming service in Japan. I'm assuming it did pretty good considering the fact that we have 3 ports coming now. And to add to that, we got Resident Evil Revelations and Resident Evil Revelations 2 on Switch already. So that right there is 5 Resident Evil games already on Switch, technically 6 if you want to include the streaming service in Japan with Resident Evil 7, which I don't really count it, but it kind of makes me wonder, could the Resident Evil 2 remake make its way to Switch sooner or later? The game was probably already in development for years leading up to its launch, so the Switch version probably wasn't on the docket back when they started development. But hell, with the success of the Switch, maybe Capcom did start another porting team to get the game running on the handheld console hybrid. Now, the Resident Evil 2 remake is a very demanding game, so I'm wondering, could it even run on Nintendo Switch? We've already seen some great looking games on Switch, like Outlast 2, Wolfenstein 2, and Doom, and the upcoming Doom Eternal, plus Mortal Kombat we know is making its way to the platform. With the success of the Switch, developers everywhere want to get their game on this platform. It's the fastest selling console of all time, which is pretty damn crazy. And developers are noticing that a lot of games are selling on Switch, so even if the game really is super graphically demanding, they're going to try and squeeze as much out of the Switch hardware as they can to get their game running on it. Capcom has been supporting the Switch pretty well with Mega Man 11 and Monster Hunter making its way to the platform, and the Resident Evil games of course. It makes me wonder, could we get the next mainline Resident Evil game on Switch? It definitely seems like a possibility. Back in the Wii days, a lot of people wouldn't pick up the Wii versions because first off, they didn't like motion controls and the huge graphical difference. But with the Switch, it's honestly not that different. Yes, we're only given 720p. Yes, it might be in 30 frames per second, but it seems like a lot of people don't care about graphics and resolution and all that stuff as much as developers and publishers think they do. Yes, it's really awesome getting a beautiful game, but honestly, the gameplay is the most important part. If it already looks good and it plays fine, then why not just have a Switch version that you can take anywhere on the go? Now, I'll be honest, that's personally not how my mindset is. A lot of times I'll pick up games on PS4 if I want the trophies, or on Xbox One X if I want the best graphics, but a lot of people, they really love the fact that the Switch is portable, which may be why a lot of these indie games are selling the most on Switch. If you're gonna buy an indie game that isn't pushing the hardware in any stretch, why not get the portable version? It makes sense. Now, it seems like Capcom and Nintendo have had a decent relationship over the years. Hell, Nintendo even let Capcom develop some Zelda games, and they've been pretty great at supporting the Switch so far. But most important of all, we know that Nintendo is actively reaching out to developers trying to get their games on the Nintendo Switch. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get the Resident Evil 2 remake on Switch, or maybe perhaps just the next mainline installment. But honestly, I'm really curious where the series will go from here, in terms of what's the next installment, or what's the next perspective. Are we gonna get another first-person game? Is it gonna be a third-person game? Could they go back to fixed camera angles? Probably not. But anyway, are we going to get the Resident Evil Revelations 3, which is more action-y? Are we going to get the first-person Resident Evil 8? Maybe it's first-person, I honestly don't know, but I'm assuming. If the next mainline installment is Resident Evil Revelations 3, I think it has a high chance of being on Nintendo Switch. As I'm sure you noticed, the Revelations games don't look nearly as good as the mainline installments. They kind of look like last-gen games, but honestly, I still enjoy them, so I don't really mind. I love Revelations 1, and Revelations 2 was pretty good in my opinion as well. It seems like Capcom always uses like an A team for their mainline installments and then a B team for the Revelations games. So I'm wondering, if Revelations has been in development, are we possibly going to get an announcement this year, maybe next year? It seems like Capcom has been on a 2-year cycle now, but if it's a Revelations game, then maybe it'll make it out early next year. I honestly am not sure. I just wanted to throw all this on the table and talk to you guys down in the comments section below. What's the next Resident Evil game that you think we're going to get? Do you think we'll see the RE2 remake or a next mainline installment on Nintendo Switch? With the success of the Switch, I honestly wouldn't doubt it. Or do you think we'll possibly get Resident Evil 3 Nemesis remade from the ground up just like RE2 was? That'd be really awesome. That would just be so awesome. Please send help. Oh my god!